advocacy group, and you guys are a small group of friendly lawmakers, Colorado state legislators, that we're trying to get you to adopt a bill proposal.
You can buy my vote.
How much?
So don't make me think, just buy my
Just
vote.
give me some money. What is that, taking your stats quiz, your stats test for you?
Exactly.
No, that's gonna go over there. Oh, that's an interesting color. That's great. Yeah.
It's not quite the color we'd pick, but it's close enough.
Yeah, that's the heck of it. You
Yeah.
don't know what the screen's gonna do to your lovely design.
Before you guys start, can you remind me what we're evaluating them on so that I
Oh,
just kind of
that's,
have good
thank you, I'm
notes
glad
by section?
you asked. For the.
Megan is awesome.
It's past fail.
Whatever, I still like the sound of that.
That's what I gave you guys too.
So for the structure, look for that pyramid structure where you know what their key recommendation or conclusion is, where they're headed with it, whether it's chunked in ways that are not only easy to identify in terms of the steps in the argument, but also in a logical sequence. And pay special attention to their opening. Have they established the peak of the pyramid, and their closing? Have they given you a good exit line? Then with the design, look at how they're using images, and especially how they're willing to use open space and white space, and the relationship between images and words. And looking at those spare bullet points, can you take in the bullet points and then what their commentary at the same time? And then the overall look of the design in terms of the branding of the group. And then with the delivery, what you usually look for with delivery, but also look at how they're working off of the screen. The relationship between their commentary and the screen and the way that they're speaking and referring to the screen.
Welcome. I'd like to introduce you to the group that's in front of you. My name is Jake Davis. And this is Kagan Chopin. Sorry, I did not say that correctly.
No, it's okay.
Sarah Tucker. And Mono, whose last name I will also butcher this.
He's like, I'm just mono, I'm the only one.
Yeah. And we're here to talk to you guys about a problem that's facing our great state. And it might not seem like a problem right off the surface, but we all love Colorado. Most of us, like myself, I'm a Midwesterner, transplant, and I came here because Colorado is a beautiful place, and it has a growing economy. And what's interesting about that is that presents a really challenging problem for Colorado's future. And that's, what do we do with the growth rate of Colorado and the desire to keep Colorado as clean and environmentally friendly as possible? So to illustrate this, I just want to talk to you guys about something that happens to all of us every day. So we probably don't think about this very often. I certainly didn't until we as a group sat down and started thinking about how we can potentially address the issue of Colorado's rate of development with our rate of energy consumption. And I started to think about what I go through every morning when I wake up, and if that actually costs me money. So if you're like me, you wake up, you roll out of bed, you hit your snooze on your alarm 4 times, and you finally wake up and have a cup of coffee. At that point, I have spent 22 cents. So that's kind of interesting. Just knowing that in the process of waking up and getting out of bed, I am spending money on the energy that I'm consuming. For a little bit of background, when we produce energy, we produce it using the metric of megawatts. But when we consume energy, we're consuming kilowatts. And we get billed on kilowatt hours. And if you're wondering what a kilowatt hour is, that's basically if you were to turn on your toaster with a piece of bread in there for an hour, you've used about a kilowatt hour worth of energy. And I calculated out what my whole morning routine was, and when I got done, it was about 80 cents. And I thought, 80 cents, that seems kind of small, right? But then if you figure that out and look at the data that's provided by EPA and other resources out there, we spend in Colorado about $125 a month on our energy bill, which seems fairly reasonable, right? But then the next question is, okay, go ahead. You know, what would happen if we didn't have to spend that $125 a month? And interestingly, last year, according to the Denver Post, Colorado was ranked 6th in terms of the fastest GDP growth across the nation, which is pretty great. And throughout the state of Colorado, we have a whole host of great organizations, the Office of Economic Development, the Innovation Council, and a whole bunch of other organizations that are focused on just making Colorado's economy grow. But that growth almost always comes at an expense. And Sarah's going to talk about that in a little bit. But what happens is as we grow, you'll see over here that our rate of consumption of energy goes up. And the problem is that our rate of energy consumption, as it increases, so does the cost of our energy consumption. Okay, and natural gas, which is our primary source of energy for our home heating and electricity, has gone up by 9% since 2011. And in that same time period, wages have only gone up 4%. So you can see that there's going to be, that creates an issue. We're spending more real dollars on energy today than we did a few years ago. So our proposal is that in Colorado, we adopt some legislation that mandates that all new homes are built with solar power. And there's a couple of great reasons why this is an incredibly effective solution to our problem. And we're going to talk about each of these in depth, but just to give you a quick highlight for all of them, first of all, Colorado is perfect solar country. We get 300 plus days of sunshine a year, we're higher up in elevations, we have stronger UV rays, we are perfectly situated to make use of solar energy. Second, we have one of the best local solar energy production economies in the country. So we are primed to take advantage of a local commodity, which only serves to further reinvest in our local economy. Next, Kagan's going to talk to you guys a little bit about how this will actually impact home construction. What's interesting about that is it'll be a net benefit to the consumer. And then lastly, this serves to improve Colorado's air and water, which is why we're here in the first place. We're here because we love the state, the mountains, and what it provides for us. And Sarah's going to talk a little more about that. But next I want to bring up Kagan. He's going to talk to us a little bit about the population growth and home construction.
So over the next 15 years, Colorado at the current growth rate is estimated to add around 3 million new residents. They'll need an additional 19.2 million megawatts of energy to meet their basic needs. As an example, Douglas County's population increased by 62% during the last census period. So even a higher growth rate than the state as a whole when you look at some of the metropolitan areas. When we look at new home growth, these are new construction builds for 2011, 2012, and 2013. So very significant numbers in the increase of new home construction. And one of the reasons for that is that Colorado didn't suffer as much in the housing crisis recently. So we don't have the empty housing, we don't have the vacancy rates that some other places do. So as our economy grows, people move here, we have to build new homes for them. When you install solar as you're building it, it's about 20% less expensive to install the solar panels on the roof of new construction than to retrofit it after it has been completed. A basic 3 kilowatt system which will power pretty much any mid-sized home for all of its basic energy needs, it's about $15,000 to install. If it's installed at building and you roll it into your mortgage at a 30-year mortgage, which is pretty much the standard, at 6%, which is a higher interest rate than most people are paying right now, that will change about $103 a month in your monthly mortgage payment. Well, our average power bill, as we saw earlier, is about $125 a month, which means you have positive cash flow your first month in your new home because solar was installed. One of the reasons it hasn't happened as much is we have a lot of rebates, both from Xcel Energy and state and federal government, to put solar into your house. However, as of now, those do not apply to commercial builders who are building it. They're only to the residential user. So with this program, we transfer some of those credits over and make it more efficient for the builder to do it because they can buy the parts in bulk, and it'll bring the price of the process down even more by doing it in this mass. So next I think we're going to go in and talk to, Sarah is going to talk about some of the environmental benefits of moving towards this kind of thing as we grow. Sarah?
Yeah, so evaluating the environmental impacts is critical in this situation. The traditional means of generating our energy or powering our homes is through coal-fired power plants as well as the natural gas that Jake mentioned, which is through fracking primarily at this point. And so you'll notice that air emissions is one of the main byproducts of coal mining. And from that we see carbon dioxide pollution, sulfur dioxide pollution, nitrous oxide pollution, methane particulates, mercury particulates in the air as well as methane pollution. All of these, as most of us know, are greenhouse gases, which have been proven to contribute to climate change, which is a huge public health issue, which is really how we should be looking at it. And so anything we can do to prevent that is really important. It also contributes to water resource use. It is a hugely water-intensive process to do coal mining as well as fracking, and so it's important to keep in mind that we're using that resource when we're doing so, and also there's a huge potential for polluting that resource. Solid waste is also a byproduct. We're seeing huge amounts of ash produced that are mostly just deposited into landfills, which is something that we can do without. And then also just thinking that all of the mines that we produce are difficult to reclaim as usable land, and so that's another impact that we're seeing. And then for fracking specifically, even beside the water that you can light on fire, there's the sheer fact that when you drill a well, eventually it runs out and you have to leave it behind. So in Pennsylvania alone, you'll see 150,000 abandoned wells, which is a pretty huge number, which has a real impact on their quality of life there. And it's also a dangerous situation because abandoned wells have existed for a long time and will continue to exist, and that continues to compromise the infrastructure underground, and it's harder to anticipate the effects of new wells being drilled and how that will potentially cause issues in the future. And also just the leakage issue from start to finish in the process, there's a lot of potential for volatile compounds to leak throughout that. So that's just a background of something to keep in mind and what we can avoid if we do move towards solar energy. As we've talked about, Colorado is growing at such a rapid pace, and if you look at the greenhouse gas emissions that we're producing, they're also growing a lot faster than our overall national economy is. And so it's really important to think about that factor specifically and how much we're growing and what an impact we'll have on the environment as we continue to add people and houses to our community. You want to go to the next slide? So as Jake mentioned, we want to keep colorful Colorado colorful. We're all here for a number of reasons, but a lot of it is because we have so many amazing places like this. So it's really important to keep that in mind and think that it's something that we want to protect. And solar energy is a way for us to invest in Colorado's future. And Mano will talk to us a little bit about the economics of the situation.
Yeah. Now that my colleagues have discussed information regarding the proposal put forth, from the lawmaker's perspective, it looks fine. Then what about the end user, that is like the normal individual, the home, the persons, the population of Colorado? How are they going to take this proposal? So the main thing that matters for them is money. So it is like we have a payback period of about 8 years. That looks pretty much high, but what happens is if you go for the solar technology, after 8 years of your spending or your financing, the solar technology is free for you. So that means you have about 10 years free period since the solar panels last for about 25 years. So the rest of the period is free for the individual or the home or the population. So, and it also depends on two types of factors, basically technical factors and non-technical factors. It is, as Jake has said, the solar time here is about, we have 300 days of sunshine in Colorado, and about on an average of 7 hours of solar time to actually activate the solar panels. That is actually high when compared to successful solar economics like Germany, which has 5.5 hours of solar time. So that is one of the factors which we have an advantage over. And there are other two factors like orientation of the resource. All through the day, the sun changes its orientation, and that affects the the energy production. There is also geographical positioning, how your house is aligned and how to which face it is actually located. Is it facing the south or is it facing the north? So those are the technical factors that affect the payback. And there are non-technical factors that affect, that is the cost of the electricity. The cost of the electricity provided from the grid. If you are having, for example, different states have different cost structures and the rate structures. It depends on the suppliers, the power suppliers, for example, Excel Energy, etc. They have a different rate structure. And it also depends on the financial system which you are going to adapt to install the solar panels. So these are the two types of factors that affect your payback. And as an individual, I will look into these kind of factors before I decide to go on to approve the bill, like vote for the legislatures. And in continuation, I would like to go for the micro and macroeconomics that would bring, that the proposal would affect. The first thing is like there will be more disposable income because the law enforces people to buy, to actually invest in solar technology. That means there is more dispensable income. That means there is an economic boost. So then comes the increasing jobs because there is going to be technological development. A lot of industry would come up. So that makes there would be a good job market in the Colorado. Then there is new market coming up, which is carbon trade, which mainly relates to the cleaner energy use, which you can actually make it profitable by trading to other countries or to other states. That makes that results in the new startups, and you know that Colorado is good at startups, right? And with this, I would like to hand it over to Jake again to conclude and discuss more.
So I hope that after listening to the presentation, you guys have arrived at a similar conclusion to us, which is that we feel this is a phenomenal idea. It's a win-win-win. Win for the state, win for the economy, and win for everybody who lives inside the state. In summation, we feel this will put more money in Colorado's pockets. A large percentage of the population we found already supports rooftop solar. One of the barriers has just been the access to it. But if you're buying a new home and it's already there for you, that immediately removes that barrier. Additionally, as Kagan showed, installation during construction is far more cost effective than retrofitting a solar panel on your home. So it removes that barrier as well. And next, it'll give a boost to Colorado's green industry jobs. We know that we have lots of fantastic solar companies based here in Colorado, and these should be the companies that we immediately turn to for sourcing the building materials and supplies. And then lastly, we're here because we want to keep Colorado green. And we know that as the economy grows and industry grows, we're going to continue producing more pollutants. This is one way to help continue improving our economy while reducing our emissions. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, well, actually, I'm going to come around here so that you can look Kate in the eye.
Oh, so that they can.
So they can-
Yes.
I was like,
Don't look at me. I'm in feedback, just not look me in the eye.
Okay, let's go ahead and talk structure.
Great, so I thought that you guys laid out the problem really well and quickly. And that helped me understand, okay, this is what you want to talk about. What I would say, and it's in Jake's section, so to Jake, is take a little space when you put the solution.
Mm-hmm.
I got the problem right away, I was like, excellent. Okay, what's the solution? If you do that as straightforward, that makes the entire presentation a really good sell for me.
Can you say what that might look like? Is it
So-
adding space, like additional slides?
Nope, I just think you say, okay, we're here to talk to you about, I can't remember how you phrased the problem. The solution is the increase of solar in Colorado.
Got it.
And now I know, okay, well, every time Kagan makes a point on solar, or Sarah makes a point, or Mono makes a point on economics, it's all going back to
Mhm.
solar in Colorado. We're probably guilty of it as well, but I think
Yeah.
that really helps. You ask the question and answer it right away.
Cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's basically that what you do is you set up your conclusion or your recommendation so that everything that every step in your logic is what you do is you ask the audience, this is where we want to go, and so we're thinking, okay, sounds interesting, convince us. It's actually an audience hook.
Mhm.
Convince us, and so that everything that, what he's saying is that everything you're saying is helping him convince us. Oh,
Yeah.
evidence toward,
Mhm.
so that we know what the evidence, is building. Okay?
I thought that you did a really good job of linking up the logic between your sections, and I thought that it was great that you had Jake come back for the conclusion. I thought that that was really well formulated. Yeah, I thought that the structure was really good, the chunking was clear.
Yeah, I agree. The structure was really logical, and if I put myself in politician's shoes listening to this, I think it gets at a lot of the key issues that I would have questions about. And I agree with Julie, I felt like it was really strong to have Jake come back in at the end, and he kind of, it's almost like a trigger to the audience that we're closing this out, and this is what you need to take away from it.
Yeah, it's a kind of bookends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a very good presentation, and this presentation make audience engaged very quickly, and I like the example Jake used. That is, how much do you cost for your get up? Yeah, when I looked at this slide, I'm asking myself, oh, it costs.
Yeah. Yeah, you
So
know, it's the things you
I'm
don't
curious
think
to
Yeah.
listen
Yeah.
the contents, and you explain this example, so
Yeah.
it attract audience a lot.
Okay, all right, good.
Where can I get one of those coffee pot alarm
I
clocks?
don't know. I thought it was like the least descriptive picture of like what I wanted to communicate. It was such a cool coffee pot.
Instantly roll up.
You know, some chemist was like,
Yeah.
extra flask and beakers, you know what I can make.